Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. Sorry, I tried to hurry. So, we are on February 22nd, part 5, the last part. And there is only like 10 minutes left of this video. And then we get, I think the 23rd is all the same guy too. Which is fine. We're learning a lot about 11 cents. I hope you guys practiced counting to 11 cents yesterday. That way, when you're watching these questions over and over again, you get a grasp of how to count to 11 cents. You know what? Maybe we shouldn't do OJ today. Maybe you guys do not understand how to count to 11 cents enough yet. Linus, I'm wearing orange for you. Orange for Linus. Linus is probably lifting heavy circles. But not the right heavy circles. Let's go.
And what criminalist was that?
That would have been Mahaney.
McCain?
Mahaney.
And do you have a report for that?
I believe so.
Can you find that? Maybe look at it?
Yes.
Hi, Judge Ito. How are ya? I wish those words weren't across your face like that. It's kind of rude. Well, if you need some heavy circles, you let me know. I need sleep. I'm sorry. I didn't just watch the OJ trial. I was in the OJ trial.
May I approach her?
I really need some sleep.
Ms. Clark?
I'm just so glad that I started right at a sidebar. Oh, that's right. I couldn't fast forward it because it's hard to tell when they start talking. So we just got to watch it, guys.
Microphone there. The document you have before you is an indication that some blood testing was done regarding scrapings on the right thigh and right calf by Mahaney?
Of Nicole Simpson, yes.
Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, while you were at the autopsy or sometime we were at the coroner's office, was anything done with regard to the fingernails of Nicole Brown Simpson?
I believe there was samples taken.
Some clippings from under her fingernails?
I believe so.
From both fingernails on
It's
both hands or
crazy.
on what hand? Can you tell?
I don't know. I would assume both hands. Without checking, I couldn't tell you.
Dedication,
If you had wanted
commitment, stamina.
have a rape kit done in this particular case, you could have asked the coroner, isn't that correct? The investigating officer?
I suppose I could have asked. I would have had no reason to do that.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking, you have the right to ask if you'd wanted to, isn't that correct?
I suppose I can ask, yes.
All right. You've done that in other cases, have you not?
cases where rape is fairly obvious, yes.
Well, that's all fine and good. You didn't know what the facts of what had happened out there on June 12th, did you, sir?
Objection.
I'm asking,
That's sustained.
well,
You can rephrase the question.
certainly. You didn't know what had happened out there on June 12th, 1994, did you, sir, when you arrived on the scene?
It was evident to me what happened, yes,
It was evident to you what had happened?
yes.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Nicole Brown Simpson had a visitor that evening after 10 o'clock, a male visitor? Do you know that? Do you know that?
The night of the murder?
Yes.
What's the objection? Overruled.
Do you know that for a fact?
The only male visitor I'm aware of is the other victim.
Do you know whether or not she had any other male visitor that night? Do you know that?
No?
But in your investigative capacity, you decided not to order this rape kit, which you could have ordered. Isn't that correct, sir?
In my observations and my experiences, sex was the last thing on the mind of this attacker. It was an overkill. It was a brutal overkill.
I wasn't
There's
asking
no
about that.
evidence of rape.
I was not
no
asking about
evidence of
that.
sexual assault.
I wasn't asking about that. I asked you if you had the right,
No.
not responsive. I moved to strike it. It
You
wasn't
lie like
responsive.
Fozzie lies.
Mr. Cochran, I think we're about... You want to just wind it up here?
Yes, yes, I can. Move to strike that last thing, Your Honor. All right. Not responsive.
That was responsible. I was exactly what it found.
It's not what I asked.
Well, let me see. Let me see. All right, overruled. Proceed.
All right. Now, with regard to, as an investigator, do you make assumptions and then stay with those assumptions
You
for
lie
the
worse
entire
than
case? Is
Fozzie
that what happens?
sometimes.
You figure out and look in your crystal ball of what happened and make your determination and discount everything else? Is that what happens, sir, as an experienced investigator?
Certainly not.
All right, I didn't think so. And with regard to, for instance, these stomach
You're going to
contents.
have to speak up a little louder. Is that an argumentative objection? All right. Mr. Cochran, we're right about there.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you. With regard to these stomach contents, they would have been very helpful in this case, this jury in determining time of death. Isn't that correct?
We've talked
Well-
about this 4 times
Well,
now.
I was going to ask a slightly different question, Your Honor, but I'll reserve it till tomorrow morning. Perhaps I'll talk to you about it tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Okay? See you tomorrow.
All right, counsel, if you recall, we have, Mr. Hodgman is on his way, I assume, for our 4 o'clock conference on our other evidentiary issues, correct? Mr. Clark, all right. And Mr. Scheck, there's Mr. Scheck, okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for this afternoon. Please remember my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations while the matter,
What do you mean? That's
until the matter
6
has been
inches.
submitted to you. Don't allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. And, ladies and gentlemen, I have some other proceedings I have to attend to tomorrow morning, so we will not get to you tomorrow morning until about 10 o'clock. All right? All right, as to the jury, I want the jury back in the courthouse at 10. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow morning. And Detective Lang, you can step down. You're ordered to return tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Leave that poor man
And Mrs.
alone.
Robertson, would you get that tape for me, please?
He's doing really good for being on the stand day after day after day with all these questions. Are you sure it's not an exclamation point? Oh, guys, hold on. Never mind. I thought Georgia went live. They didn't.
All right, Mr. Hodgman, Mr. Scheck, what's our status this afternoon? Is this something we need to put on the record? Do you want to talk informally first?
No, no, Your Honor. No, there was some information that the court had received that I, for one, was interested in looking at, and then we had another matter of discussion that could potentially involve the court, but need not go on the record at this time. And we were just in the midst of discussing that.
All right,
So-
I can take a break for 10 minutes, and you guys can talk amongst yourselves.
If Ms. Clark is, okay, the only other thing I thought was outstanding was the packages. That's the only thing.
Have you resolved that with Mr. Hodgman?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he was involved. I
No,
know
I was just apprised of that situation, Your Honor. Your Honor, I think we're done for the day as far as the record goes. We need to talk, I need to talk to Mr. Scheck to see if, regarding a proposition to work something out. We can easily present that to the court tomorrow morning. So
We have a rather full plate tomorrow morning.
if not tomorrow morning, I think if we take the time right now,
Okay.
we can take a minute of the court's time. So,
Well, I have plenty to do, so.
okay.
All right, then we'll stand in recess. I'll be available in chambers. All right. Do we have Mr. Simpson available? Let's then. Thank you. All right, back on the record in the Simpson matter. Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Douglas, Mr. Bailey. People represented by Ms. Clark and Mr. Darden. The jury is not present. Counsel, good afternoon. We need to look at the videotape that I take it these are now excerpts from the videotape that we viewed yesterday.
In line with Your Honor's instructions, we would now try to comply, and I think you're right, Your Honor, a copy of 9 o'clock. There's one additional tape, which is very short, which we've been playing that tape. I'd ask them to take it playing the outset.
All right. Ms. Clark, let me ask you this. Do we have an objection from the people as to, have you seen the excerpts, first of all? All right. Do you lodge any objections to any of the excerpts? Which ones?
Actually, I think I'm going to need to play it and show the court which excerpts. That
Okay.
might be the most effective thing.
Let's take it from the top.
Okay. Stop right here? Oops. Can you stop? Yeah? Okay, thanks. Part of the problem is shown just before this frame and in this one as well. And the problem is with this tape, with the excerpts that I'm going to be pointing out to the court, is the lack of depth, the lack of perspective. Under 352, this tape is clearly more misleading and more prejudicial than probative. The problem that we have is that we have a cameraman whose angle and position is unknown, and we have the use of a lens, the nature of which is unknown. The problem created by this is that there's no depth perception, and it's more misleading than it is informative because it winds up making everyone look on top of each other. What you can't see is where their feet are positioned. You can't see the ground that their feet are positioned on, and that is the whole point for which the defense is attempting to introduce this, is to show that people were walking through blood and contaminating evidence. The tape fails to show that, and even worse than that, is misleading in that it tends to leave the inference that the feet are in blood or contaminating blood as they move when you really can't even see them. So the tape does not, in fact, inform you of where the feet are because you never can see them. It makes it appear that they are stepping in areas that they're not because of the lack of depth perception. And the court has been there, so the court is aware of the way the area really looks, and you can see how flattened this picture really is. It doesn't depict the distances.
But hasn't the jury also been there?
They have, but you can't count on the jury to remember everything in such great detail. I will tell you that, Your Honor, I've been out to that scene 4 or 5 times, and in between I have every time forgotten what the distances were really like. Every time I go back there, I'm surprised at how small that area is in front where the fences meet to the north and to the east, and surprised at the length of the walkway, the number of stairs going up and down. You can't remember this accurately. No one can. So the fact that the jury went is helpful, but certainly does not resolve this particular problem. Moreover, to the extent that their memories fade, their memories will be their accurate memories will be replaced with this misleading video that it has no probative value because it doesn't show the very thing the defense purports to use it for, which is where they're stepping. And as we advance the tape, the court will see how bad this problem gets.
Do we get to hear her narrative, or can I respond at some point?
Well, let's watch
This is called-
the first excerpt, and then I'll hear.
This is called argument, I think, and it's at least. Really see where the detective is standing.
Detective Phillips.
Right. Now here again. Can we stop that? Same problem. We can't see where Claudine Ratcliffe, who is the woman to the left of Tom Lang, is standing. You can't see whether she's standing in a clear area or in an area that the defense wants to allege, is bloody. Same thing with Detective Lang. You can't tell by this video where he's actually standing. The inference the defense will ask the jury to draw is that he's standing in blood. I'm sure that's totally untrue. Nevertheless, the impression created, which is a totally misleading one, is that they are, or might be. The fact of the matter is, this tape does nothing to clear up that issue. In fact, it does the reverse. It clouds the issue to make it appear one way when it is in fact another. By this tape, it would appear that these people are standing in blood if the defense inference and spin is to be bought by this jury, when in fact that is not the case. So what you have here is a piece of evidence that not only does not inform the jury of the truth, but actually hides and distorts the truth.
All right, how about the next portion of the...
Right, and the timestamp is right over their feet, obscuring the very point that the defense is trying to make.
Well, let me hear what Ms. Clark's objections are to first clip, and then I'll hear your response, Mr. Cochran. Mr. Harris.
And the court can see, again, the timestamp continued to obscure their feet as they stood there. And now we have a person who completely blocks the view.
Detective Phillips.
Again, you can't see where Claudine Ratcliffe is standing, whether her feet are on plastic or whether they're on the ground itself, whether they're in blood or in a clear spot. Everything up to here is largely irrelevant. Again, you have Claudine Ratcliffe shown there in the background, as the court could see. No, there's no way to tell where she's standing or where she's walking.
I was trying to create and buy a mug that says it's Bill right after this, and it just wouldn't let me. Hi, John.
you can see that Detective Lang is taking some care in the way he steps, but what you can see is where he is stepping. His feet are obscured. The area he's stepping in is totally obscured. Same thing here, same problem. You can't see where these people are standing. You can't see the area of the case. You can't see their feet. You can't see the ground they're standing on. As the court can see, at every point so far, when the defense would ask the jury to make an inference, the very point that they're trying to make is obscured.
Mr. Harris?
It continues on just a little bit further.
This epitomizes the problem with this whole tape. It looks from this that everyone is standing on top of each other with not 2 inches between them. We know that is not the case. That obviously can't physically be the case, but it's such a misleading and distorted clip that you can't tell where everyone is standing. You can't appreciate the spatial distances, and you certainly can't see from any of this where their feet are. Same problem here. Again here.
Ms. Clark?
I think that what this clip shows the court is the very reason for the existence of Section 352 of the Evidence Code. This is a piece of evidence that is not evidence. This is a distortion. This is a method of confusion, and it does not inform the jury of anything of probative value. In fact, quite the contrary, it obscures the facts that it purports to, that the defense says it purports to show, and that is where people stood and whether the crime scene was properly handled. It doesn't inform the jury of any of that. It's very distorting. It's very misleading. They have not produced the cameramen who could come forward to tell us. Oh, there's more.
No, we're just looking at the first clip at this point, taking them one at a time. Mr. Harris, thank you.
Yes, this is still part of
It is?
I didn't watch this part of the tape. I thought the tape was over.
Me too.
So there's a lot of blank space in the
Well, see, no one told us that.
And we can't tell them how to watch.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna sit up and watch
Wait,
an hour blank.
wait, means stop. This looks like the same thing over again.
I have to rewind over.
All right, let's take up the first segment that you're offering first. All right, Ms. Clark, do you have any other objections?
Furthermore, and lastly, that they have not produced the cameraman who could tell us where he stood. I'm sure it will be something in the nature of across the street. And someone who will tell us the nature of the lens he used. I'm sure there's some sort of telephoto lens. And I'm sure that if an expert were called, because we have received calls from experts after this tape was shown yesterday, they will inform the court of just how distorting and misleading this really is. It won't be hearsay when they come in to testify. But I really don't think that it's appropriate for the court to allow the jury to be misled this way. And that is the purpose for Section 352. The probative value is nil, and we'd ask the court to keep it out for that reason.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cochran?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like very much to get to the cross-examination, and I will not belabor this point. I think it's a sad day when we have a videotape of the scene, Your Honor, that where there's a proper foundation. Cases say we don't have to bring in the cameraman. No one is trying to mislead anyone, Your Honor. This is a videotape. And Ms. Clark protests too much, Your Honor. They obviously don't want the jury to see this. As you pointed out, we've all been out to the scene. There are certainly spatial differences, but one can see that yellow tape very clearly. I went through yesterday with Detective Lang with regard to what was shown there at various times. Ms. Clark's problem throughout the whole presentation of her case is she's worried about what we're going to do and what we're going to say. This tape is a tape taken that morning, Your Honor, on 3 particular periods of time. It's taken when Detective Lang greets Miss Radcliffe and advises her what's happening. The bodies are still there. It's taken when the body of Nicole Brown Simpson is moved. It's taken when the body of Mr. Ron Goldman is moved. It shows us also, if the court pleases, when Mr. Jacopo arrives at the scene. We also see Mr. Fung, the criminalist, there. That is far more compelling evidence than the hours she spent with detailed little questions, and we were showing exactly what happened. When and where does it say that a videotape, an accurate depiction of what happens, would not be admissible under 352? It's preposterous and it's sad, Your Honor. It's really sad. Further, Your Honor, we've done everything that you've asked us to do with regard to this. We started talking about this tape in opening statement. We presented them a copy of this tape on January 23rd. They will do anything they can to avoid having the jury see an actual tape of how things looked that day. Judge, with regard to any spatial differences, we have a detective of some 28 years' experience, a very, very competent detective who will be able to tell where people were standing and that sort of.
Hold on, sir. I would wait till you take a breath, but you just don't. So I just set up a whole It's Bill line on Redbubble so I could buy a shirt right now. And I can't. It just takes too long. Like later today or tomorrow or the next day I'll be able to buy this shirt. But I'm going to.
Thing. They don't want the tape shown because they don't have the tape, we have the tape. And we're the ones trying to help this jury see what really transpired. Who could complain about a tape of what actually happened? We didn't make this up. This is what happened contemporaneously with the events. It is the best recollection of what took place. And as to the spatial differences, we have witnesses, we have the yellow tape, we've all been out there. We know it's a small area. And so I think, Your Honor, they've objected on this for months now, at least 1 month. Isn't it time to proceed with this, Your Honor? We've lost one whole morning. We'd like to proceed with our cross-examination and to get this done. This is admissible. It's appropriate. It's relevant. It's a videotape of what took place, Your Honor.
What's its relevance?
Its relevance is to show exactly what happened with regard to, for instance, the officer testifies that he doesn't remember whether he's wearing gloves or not. It shows us who's wearing gloves at the scene, who's wearing anything over their shoes. It shows us what the coroner's people are doing at various times. It shows us this particular scene. And Judge, this scene and what took place, this scene becomes very relevant in this case. Because if the evidence was not appropriately and properly collected, if there was contamination of this scene, we have an absolute right to show this. This is a videotape. This would be almost like, and I'm sure that in the Rodney King case, I'm sure the prosecution argued you can't show that tape. The defense argued we couldn't show that tape. But this is an accurate recollection of what took place. So why in the world would it not be shown? It has relevant testimony about the arrival of people, what they did, how these bodies were placed, where things were, with Fung coming in there with his collection of things. There's great relevance, and it also goes to impeachment. For all those reasons, this is it's relevant. It's not prejudicial. We took out the prejudicial parts. In fact, I mentioned to your court yesterday I would do that yesterday. So we've been talking about this for more than a month. And their objections about spatial differences are obviously cured. We've all been out there, Your Honor, and we have Detective Lang.
Well, don't you agree that there's at least one shot there where everybody's lined up on the sidewalk when I believe one of the bodies is about to be moved, and everybody's sort of lined up, and you can't really tell who's standing where because of the lens distortion?
No, I don't agree with that at all, Your Honor. We know where these people are. There is a yellow tape. There's some people beyond the tape, some people within the tape, and we can cover that with the examination of the officer who was there. That has nothing to do with admissibility. That has, Your Honor, with all due respect, it has to do with the weight of it. And I think we will carefully cover that with Detective Lang. It's not offered.
You agree the court still has 352 jurisdiction?
So I'm looking at my Redbubble now that I have Bill gonna be on there at some point that I can buy, right? So I've had Redbubble for a while. It's where I sell my merchandise. Okay? Alright? So far, I've sold 2 mugs, 1 long sleeve t-shirt, 1 pullover sweatshirt, 2 classic t-shirts. I don't know what this is, but I've sold 3 logos that totaled $12. 1 more hoodie, 1 more long sleeve t-shirt, 1 dad hat. Oh, that's what the 3 things were that equaled to $12. So skip that $12. It was the hoodie, the t-shirt, the dad hat, and then I sold another t-shirt, active t-shirt, and a classic t-shirt. Okay? So yeah, I 2 hoodies. 1 sweatshirt and 1 hoodie. Alright, so that's what I've sold so far. 2 mugs, 2 hoodies, like 5 shirts, 5 t-shirts, and a dad hat. All right? I am not even 50% there to get a payment from them. So I would have to sell all of that again plus a little bit more to get a payment from my merch at all. Is that not crazy? Something's wrong here. How many things did I sell total? Products sold 6, 9, 11. 11 things, I think. I feel like I'm missing something. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 things. And they haven't paid me anything yet. And they're not going to. I'm not even halfway there. That's crazy. I also talk too much. Me and Cochran are twinsies today. Back to work. All right, we're going to watch like 4 to 7 more minutes of this, and then I got a hard stop because big things are happening.
Jurisdiction.
Oh, the court has certainly 352 jurisdiction, but the court also wants, this is a search for truth.
I love that
And I
place.
cannot see, if this is a search for
loved
truth
it.
by both sides, how anybody could object to a videotape of what actually took place there. I mean, they were talking all the time about the truth and what went on, and that's folly. We want to show this. We have the officer there, Your Honor, who can make this clear, and the prosecution never gives the jury any credit. Marcia Clark says that each time she goes out there, she forgets how small it is. But I think these jurors will not forget how small it is. I think Lang is here to remind us, Your Honor, and this is relevant testimony. It's very relevant. It also has some impeaching aspects, and where there's any effort or any possible confusion, that'll be cleared up by Detective Lang.
All right. Let me see excerpt number 2.
Is that, Your Honor, Detective Lang, be outside with that? Oh,
I don't think we've finished all of the ones on this
one.
tape.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
What do you think, Lena's court cases where the camera goes right below my head?
Segment 3.
I've been thinking about Skyrim all day. I play Skyrim.
So, Your Honor, this is the same problem we have throughout the tape. You know, the defense is basically stating that they have the absolute right to distort, confuse, and mislead this jury. You can see from this tape, the problem is that the people would have absolutely no objection to an accurate videotape. From the previous shot you saw that introduced this segment, you can tell it's being shot from across the street at some distance from the location, which is why they had to use a zoom lens. And that's why we have everything so compressed as it's shown here. These people look like they're within 1 inch of each other. You can't tell where they're standing, you can't see their feet, and you haven't been able to see their feet in any part of this segment yet. This right here shows them like literally in a dog pile on top of each other. We know that can't be true. But you can't see where they're standing. You can't see where their feet are. You can't see the ground they're standing on. You can't see the spatial relationship between them. If there was any accuracy to this videotape, the people would not object to it. The very reason the defense wants it is because it is so misleading, it is so inaccurate, it is such a distortion of the truth. If the defense really wanted the truth, then it would be calling these people to the witness stand to say where they stood and what they were doing and whether they were wearing booties or whether they were wearing gloves. You don't have to put on this pile of distortion and basically
I'll check 'em
lies
out.
to get the jury to believe in something that never occurred. And that's what's so unfair here, is that this is the nature of this videotape is going to mislead them to the point where they will not be able to remember they are not going to be able to remember the crime scene from their own memory nearly as well as a very recent depiction on videotape. I would also remind the court that there is a video that will be shown concerning what the defense still frame picture. Never mind. The vice and the problem with following the defense lead on these things is that they are deliberately hiding the truth from this jury. And they did that with the American Journal. They did that with the American Journal photograph. Then I don't know if the jury knows to this date that the photograph they showed was a still frame from a video. They would never have known that in fact it was shot by some news tabloid agency had I not brought that out. Had the people not marked an exhibit that was the duplicate of that showed what that logo was that the defense blocked out. And we're going to have more to show the court about that later. But in showing that to the jury, they deliberately created the inference that before any testing or collection was done, officers were traipsing up and down the walkway. We're going to prove that's not true. We're going to prove that's a lie. And the problem with this tape is the very same thing. They have an impression created by a distortion with lens and with position. They inform the jury of nothing probative. I understand the difference between admissibility and weight, but in that term, this is weightless. This is really non-probative. The only value in it is to distort, mislead, and confuse the jury, and that's the value the defense seeks to get from it. But truth, there's nothing resembling the truth that this jury will get from this videotape.
Ms. Clark, do you have access? Because apparently one can tell just by some of the distance shots that there are a number of video photographers at the location. And inadvertently, I have myself seen on television many versions of this same activity taken from different shots. Do you have access to any of those?
I haven't. We haven't been able to. We, as a matter of fact, tried to get a hold of the cameraman who produced this tape, and they have resisted our subpoena.
Channel 5?
I'm not sure the name. We're going to check. I'm informed by Mr. Darden that we're talking to their lawyers in Chicago. But in the meantime, what we have here...
Well, let me just ask you. You don't have any other videotapes from any other sources of this particular activity?
No.
Okay. Mr. Cochran?
Again, prosecution can go back and try to get OJ Simpson's medical records in 1970 in Buffalo, and they can't. Everybody in America has seen these videotapes. Your Honor, and I think that the court's going to see who's being disingenuous in this instance. This is a videotape. We didn't create it. This was shot by local people. She's talking about distortion and lies. This was shot by local TV people, and we're just trying to show what...
Am I correct, this Channel 5?
I think it's Channel 5, I believe it, Your Honor. You know, and the problem is, this is available to all of us. You told us to go out and try to subpoena whatever we could. We were all trying to do that. Your Honor, with regard to any particular photograph she wants to stop at, it is common sense that when you shoot a video, it's going to show people at different locations. Detective Lang can explain that. The jury understands that. Nobody's trying to mislead anybody. What we're trying to show is what took place at the scene. Make no mistake about it. What we're talking about is their fear of anybody seeing what took place out there. That's all this is about. Have you ever seen them protest and argue for 1 month over something that is admissible? This is clearly admissible. They have Detective Lang. They have every officer out there to make this clear. We will make it clear. Nobody's trying to mislead anybody about the American Journal thing. What the court allowed us to do on the American Journal was to ask whether or not anybody had seen that officer. We took American Journal out of the photo. It was a print. There was never any attempt to mislead anybody about that. What happened at that...
Mr. Cochran, that's apples and oranges.
All right, well, she brought the apples and oranges up, Your Honor. You didn't say that when... Well, I won't bring up what you didn't say when she was here. But that is apples and oranges, but she brought up the apples and oranges. So since we're talking about fruit, let me get back to the right fruit. This is appropriate fruit for this jury, Your Honor, and we will handle it in an appropriate way. And the court knows we have witnesses here. Nobody's trying to distort or mislead. This is a videotape, Judge, of what happened there. You yourself have seen videotapes. They're available to everybody. Everybody tries their case the way they want to. If they want to hide what took place out there and try to create a sterile view of one man's opinion by calling somebody to the stand, so be it. If we want to show what actually took place, so the jury sees Jacopo, so the jury sees Miss Ratcliffe, so the jury sees Phillips is where he was and what he had to do. I think that's absolutely our right, and this defendant should not be punished by this. And it's unfair and it's outrageous, and we want to proceed with this at this point, Your Honor. We've laid the appropriate foundation. We've cited the cases. We want to move on and get this thing done and move on with our cross-examination. We've lost this morning. We're now losing much of the afternoon. We'd like to resolve this.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me, counsel. Detective Lang, now that you've seen that videotape, can you ascertain where people are standing from those camera angles?
Not really, Your Honor. I'm pretty sure about where I was in my location, but I can't tell where anyone else was because I can't see the bottom of their legs, their position.
There's another problem with this. Is that the defense has failed to lay any foundation at all. I don't know why Mr. Cochran keeps saying that. There's been no foundation laid for this. There's been no one called to authenticate this tape or how it was made. And just because it's good enough for Channel 5 doesn't mean it's good enough for this jury. I think there's a big difference between what you can show on a news TV show, as we've seen, and what you can do in a court of law. You know, there have been, the problem with veracity is not that we're accusing Channel 5 of lying. That's not their fault. They were out there, they were trying to take the most accurate picture they could from a distance. They did the best they could.
Channel 5 would have a Chicago lawyer.
Right. But what I'm concerned about is this, Your Honor. Channel 5 did not shoot that scene for the purpose of introducing the matter in court. They shot a scene as best they could from a limited vantage point so that they could put it on television. That's all. They weren't looking to admit something in a court of law so that they could most accurately depict everything at all. That wasn't their purpose. That wasn't their focus. I'm not casting any aspersions on them. But this is a court of law, and our standards have to be higher, and we have to require more for this jury, and we have to make sure that this jury does get the accurate truth, and all of the truth, not a distortion, and not a piece of a truth, and not a little corner over here that pleases the defense, but the whole truth. And that's what the people are looking for. If they want to have the jury see Jacopo, the jury see Ratcliffe, they know where to find them. These people can be subpoenaed. They're not hiding somewhere. And Mr. Cochran knows that very well. He doesn't want the jury to get the truth. He doesn't like the fact that we have witnesses taking the witness stand and telling it the way it really was. He doesn't want that to happen. We're doing it with very painstaking care. He doesn't like it. He wants to spin that. He wants to distort that. He wants to make it appear in a way that it never was. And so what a perfect thing. He's got a tape that was taken that happens to distort the scene completely. He's got the perfect vehicle for it. But it is not appropriate in a court of law. He can entertain his friends with it, and he can tell all he wants about how we're hiding the truth. We are the only ones seeking the truth in this courtroom. We are the only side, on counsel table, Your Honor, at counsel table. Let me make that real clear. We are trying to make sure the jury gets the accurate evidence, the truth of the matter, and a complete picture. And the defense wants to hand them a distortion and a half-truth. And that's what this is. Yes, it tells you that certain people are at the crime scene. But the one thing that the defense is claiming it wants to admit it for is never shown by this tape. In fact, you never see anyone's feet. So their claimed probative value is non-existent. And all we have left is prejudicial value. That is the value that it has for the defense in misleading this jury. And that's what the people are required to prevent. And that's what we are seeking the court's order to say, no, you cannot confuse. No, you cannot distort. This jury will get the truth. And this tape is not the truth.
Okay. That's That's a good stopping point. We have to stop now. It's 8 o'clock, and I have big plans for today for courts, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. I really, really appreciate it. We will do more OJ tomorrow morning. Have a great day, guys. See ya.